Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Hockey Talk with TG Podcast. I'm Ty Glenn. Hopefully you guys are having a great Friday. Got lots of NHL news to discuss, so make sure that you stay tuned into this episode until the end. As always, do me a favor, hit that like and subscribe button if you are watching the podcast on YouTube, and if you're listening to the podcast on all your platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio. Make sure to give me a follow on there. Hit that notification bell. We are with you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 11:30 a.m. to noon Central Time, 12:30 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So you want to make sure that you give this podcast a follow and hit that notification bell. Hit that big red subscribe button on the bottom right of your screen so you can stay up to date on the latest episodes of the Hockey Talk with TG Podcast. And as I said before, we are going to be live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11:30 a.m. Central Time to give you a recap of the previous game from the Stanley Cup Final along with a preview for next game. So make sure that you are tuning in live at 11:30 a.m. Central Time to hear the latest updates and the best post-game analysis. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So, Leon Draisaitl comes up clutch again in overtime in Game 4 to give the Oilers a 5-4 overtime win over the Florida Panthers on Thursday. Second overtime goal of the series and fourth overtime goal of the playoffs, 11th goal of the playoffs, and this series is tied up at 2 games apiece. Third of 4 games this series, or I should say the third time in the first 4 games of the series that this has went to overtime. Of course, Game 1, Games 2 went into overtime, and now you got Game 4 going into overtime. So this Stanley Cup Finals is certainly living up to the hype. And this was a comeback win for the Oilers after being down 3-0 at the end of the first to Florida. And man, oh man, was that first period just awful for the Oilers. It was just awful. Same mistakes that happened in Game 3 carried on to Game 4 of the first period. And then we saw Stuart Skinner getting pulled again for the second straight game. So, and then after that first period, it really looked like a different Oilers team in the second and third period. So this game went from, oh, this is over to, oh, what did I just see? And then like, my oh my, was this absolute cinema. So it kind of went on, that kind of trail. But anyway, the Oilers, they got goals from Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, which came on the power play. Power play has struggled in this series and I think in the Stanley Cup playoffs overall. And then they got another goal from Darnell Nurse, Vasily Polkinen, and then Jake Wallman for the comeback win. And fun fact, this win made Edmonton the 7th team in NHL history to overcome a 3-goal deficit in a Stanley Cup Final game. And then again, like I mentioned, Stuart Skinner was pulled for the second straight game, allowed 3 goals on 17 shots faced in net. Calvin Pickard stepped in and made 22 saves in relief, and this is when the Oilers' momentum started to change with Calvin Pickard in there. But that first period, it looked like the same Oilers team in Game 3, but in Game 4 of the second period, something clicked in the Oilers that made them spark and come back to win this game. And this kind of tells you what the Oilers are. They are a resilient group. They know that at times like this, when they fall down, they're going to pick themselves right back up. Now, don't get me wrong, the Panthers are resilient too. They have a great team as well. That's why they, after blowing a 3-0 lead, they came back and tied the game to force overtime on a goal from Stan Reinhart. So both of these teams are resilient, but it was the Oilers coming out with the win. And also, Calvin Pickard is now 7-0 in the playoffs. So going into Game 5, you would think that Calvin Pickard is going to get the start for Game 5, especially at a time like this. This is going to be a pivotal Game 5 coming up. And I will see Calvin Pickard, or everybody's going to expect that Calvin Pickard, excuse me, is going to get the start heading into Game 5 after the performance he put on for Game 4, making key clutch saves. Of course, he got a made a key save on Anton Lundell on the short breakaway in the second period. Made a key save on him. And then what about that magnificent save on, well, technically he didn't make a save on Sam Bennett. Well, maybe. Because the puck, Sam Bennett with a one-timer from the right circle, and the puck went off of Calvin Picker's glove, off the tip of Calvin Picker's glove, and it hit the crossbar and stayed out. That's why I said Calvin Picker kind of made a save on that, because it did go off his glove. But it also went off the post and stayed out. You would think that Calvin Picker will do like Marc-Andre Fleury has been doing his whole entire career, when the puck glances off the post and stays out, and just taps the post and say, "Thank you, Mr. Post." Like, that's something that Marc-Andre Fleury did his entire career. I'm pretty sure Calvin Picker did the same thing when that chance happened. So he really stepped in and delivered for the Edmonton Oilers and got the series tied up at 2 games apiece. So again, you would imagine him getting the start in Game 5 for Saturday. But for the Florida Panthers, Matthew Tkachuk scored twice, both of those goals coming on the power play. Anton Lundell also scored for Florida. And Sam Reinhart had the game-time goal with 19.5 seconds remaining in the third period to send this game into overtime. But after blowing the 3-0 lead, the Panthers couldn't complete the comeback. This actually, if you think about it, this is the second time that the Panthers have blown a 3-0 lead to the Oilers. Of course, last year, Panthers were up 3-0 in the series against the Oilers. Oilers came back, tied the series up at 3 to force the Game 7. And then in this game, they had a 3-0 lead. And then the Oilers came back, tied the game up at 3, and then made it 4-3 before Sam Reinhart tied the game up at 4, and then it was all the Oilers in overtime. But Sergei Bobrovsky, he made 30 saves on 35 shots faced in net in this game in the loss. But Game 5 will be in Edmonton on Saturday, tomorrow night at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time. That game will air on TNT, True TV, and HBO Max for you guys to watch. And a pivotal Game 5 for both of these teams. Like I said, well, actually, you guys probably didn't hear me say this because this was off air. But I said off air, whoever wins Game 4 is most likely going to win the Stanley Cup. And we saw the Oilers win Game 4 yesterday. They have all the momentum, or at least slightly the momentum, heading into Game 5 at home at Rogers Place, with Calvin Picker most likely getting the start in Game 5. So the momentum is on their side, but we'll see if the Florida Panthers can steal another one on the road and take a 3-2 series lead, heading back to Sunrise for Game 6 on, I think, Tuesday. Or if the Oilers will win at home and they take a 3-2 series lead. And I did say the Oilers in 6. I'm hoping it's the Oilers in 6, if not 7. But this is going to be a long, tight, contested series. So we'll see how everything goes in Game 5 tomorrow night. But now we're going to talk about Chris Kreider, as Chris Kreider waives his no-trade clause and gets traded to the Anaheim Ducks, along with a 2025 fourth-round pick on Thursday. That's right, you heard me. Chris Kreider is no longer a New York Ranger. He is headed to Orange County, and he is going to be an Anaheim Duck, and he'll be reunited with former Rangers teammates Jacob Trouba, Ryan Strome, and Frank Vetrano. And the Rangers, according to Frank Saravari, they received a 20-year-old prospect, Kerry Terrence, and a 2025 third-round pick. So Rangers obviously making a lot of big moves, and they trade away some of their best key solid players like Chris Kreider, Capo Caco, Jacob Trouba, and a lot more after that. So, I mean, of course, you got Mike Sullivan now, the new head coach, and the Rangers obviously making a lot of big moves in this offseason. And in his final season with the New York Rangers, Chris Kreider had 30 points in 68 games played, 22 goals, 8 assists for 30 points in 68 games played in his final season with the Rangers, 2024-25 season. Overall, he's played 13 seasons with the New York Rangers. And in those 13 seasons, he's had 582 points in 883 games played, 326 goals, 256 assists, for 582 points in 883 games played. He's third in goals, 10th in points, 8th in games played in franchise history, and he's tied for the most power play goals in franchise history with 116. Second in game winners with 50, and in the playoffs, he has 76 points in 123 games, 48 goals, 28 assists, for 76 points in 123 playoff games. He's the all-time playoff leader in goals. He's had 5 Eastern Conference Final appearances with the New York Rangers, and he went to the Stanley Cup Final 1 time with the New York Rangers in 2014, which obviously was a loss to the LA Kings in 5 games. And he was on ice impact. He was a big impact for the New York Rangers. During his time there, he was a community leader. He was heavily involved in charity work, and he was a mentor and a great veteran to the Rangers locker room. And it's crazy that after those 13 seasons, after being a Ranger for a long time, he is now headed to the West Coast, to Orange County, and playing for the Anaheim Ducks next season, which of course they have also made some moves. Of course, they got Joe Quenneville as the new head coach now. He used to coach my Chicago Blackhawks and helped us win 3 Stanley Cups during his time with the Blackhawks, and now he's going to be behind the bench for the Anaheim Ducks. Overall, this move for Chris Kreider, this is a solid move, both good and bad. Good move for the Rangers because they are freeing up cap space, and a bad move because they are losing a great veteran player who's been on the team long enough, 13 seasons with the team, in Chris Kreider. And Chris Kreider actually has 2 years left on his $6.5 million contract. He will be a UFA in 2027, and at that time, he'll be 36 years old. Currently 34 years old right now, but he'll be 36 in 2027, and he'll be a UFA at the time. So I don't know where the Rangers go from here, but again, it's crazy to think that the Rangers have traded a lot of their key solid players, and I just listed a few of them in Chris Kreider, Capo Caco, Jacob Trouba. Other players they have traded: Philip Zito going to Vancouver, Ryan Lindgren going to Colorado, and of course Jimmy Vesey, forgetting what team he went to. But this Rangers team, they're trying to look for a different approach heading into next season after missing the playoffs this season a year later after they won the President's Trophy, because they won the President's Trophy in 2024, and then in 2025 they missed out on the playoffs. So they're trying to go with a different approach. They didn't like where they finished this season, and they're making lots of big changes heading into next season. And now we're going to go to the NHL Awards side, and we're going to talk about Cale Makar as he wins the James Norris Memorial Trophy for the second time in his NHL career. Of course, he previously won the award in the 2021-22 season, the season that the Avalanche also won the Stanley Cup against the Tampa Bay Lightning, and Cale Makar also took on the Conn Smythe Trophy that year as well. Quinn Hughes and Zach Werenski were the other finalists for the James Norris Memorial Trophy. And for Cale Makar, this is the 5th time that he is a Norris finalist in his 6 NHL seasons. And this season, Cale Makar led all defensemen with 30 goals, 62 assists, and 92 points, marking a remarkable offensive campaign. I always describe him as an offensive defenseman, and I also describe him as Connor McDavid on defense. He notched 92 points in 80 games played, so 30 goals, 62 assists for 92 points in 80 games played. And he became the 9th defenseman in NHL history to score at least 30 goals in one season, since Mike Green done it with the Washington Capitals in the 2008-2009 season. And he joins Bobby Orr, Dennis Potvin, Paul Coffey, Rod Langway, and Eric Carlson as the sixth defenseman to win multiple Norris trophies before turning 27. He's currently 26 by now, but he'll turn 27 on October 30th. And Cale Makar also set NHL career highs in power play goals with 12, shorthanded goals with 2, and shots on goal with 246, while also averaging 25 minutes and 43 seconds of ice time per game this season, which is third in the league among all skaters. So he's really had a stellar season. I know some people were thinking that the Norris Trophy should have gone to Quinn Hughes, and Quinn Hughes, he had a great season for Vancouver, but I think Cale Makar was the right choice to win the Norris Trophy. Just a stellar season all around. Absolutely deserved it. One of my favorite defensemen to watch. So, yeah, obviously W for Cale Makar. Of course, the Avalanche, they didn't like what happened, losing in the first round in 7 games to the Dallas Stars and having your former player, Mikko Rantanen, notch a 4-point night, a hat trick, and 1 assist to eliminate you from the first round. So, obviously, they didn't like that, and hopefully they'll bounce back next season. We'll just have to see how everything goes. But still staying on the NHL Awards topic, we got another one in Anze Kopitar as he takes home the Lady Byng Memorial Trophy. Of course, that award goes out to the player who demonstrated sportsmanship and gentlemanly conduct combined with elite play. Jack Eichel, the Vegas Golden Knights, and Braden Point of the Tampa Bay Lightning were the other finalists for the award. This is the third time in his NHL career that he has won the Lady Byng Memorial Trophy. He previously won the award in the 2015-16 season and in the 2022-23 season. And he joins Wayne Gretzky, Martin St. Louis, Pavel Datsyuk, and Alex Devacheo, among other players, to win the award. And Anze Kopitar finished the 2024-25 season with 67 points in 81 games played, 21 goals, 46 assists for 67 points in 81 games played, while only taking 2 penalties, setting a personal record for on-ice discipline this season. So congratulations to Anze Kopitar. He's also won multiple Selke and Lady Byng trophies. So he's won 2 Selke trophies before, and now he's taking home 3 Lady Byng trophies. Of course, the Frank J. Selke trophy goes out to the best defensive forward. So he's winning a lot of trophies. He's had a great career up until this point. Winning. I think he was part. Was he? Yeah, he was part of those 2 Stanley Cups with the LA Kings when the LA Kings won the Stanley Cup in 2012 and 2014. So great veteran to that LA Kings locker room, and he's going to be taking home some more hardware. So congratulations to Anze Kopitar, the LA Kings. Obviously the Kings didn't like what happened, getting eliminated by the Edmonton Oilers for the 4th straight year in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But this LA Kings team is shaking up, making some big moves. They fired Luc Robitaille as their team president, and I think the general manager, and they're getting Ken Holland as the general manager now, so things are coming for LA. We'll just have to see what happens for them for next season. But now we're going to talk about Connor Hellebuyck as he wins the Hart Memorial Trophy on Thursday. Of course, the trophy goes out to the MVP of the regular season. Connor Hellebuyck also won the Vezina Trophy this year for best goaltender, and the William and Jennings Trophy for fewest goals allowed for the 2nd straight season. And for the Vezina Trophy part, this is his 3rd Vezina Trophy. He won it the previous 2 times in 2020 and 2024. And fun fact, Connor Hellebuyck became the first goalie to win the Hart Memorial Trophy since Carey Price won the award in the 2014-15 season. So 1 decade later, Connor Hellebuyck takes home the Hart Memorial Trophy. So it's kind of crazy to think about it. You rarely see goalies win the Hart Memorial Trophy. There's been a few goalies that has won this award before, and a few that have won both the Hart and Vezina Trophy. Connor Hellebuyck joins that list. Of course, other goalies he becomes the 5th goaltender to win both the Hart and the Vezina Trophy. Of course, other goalies have won both the Hart and Vezina are Carey Price, Dominic Hasek, Jacques Plante, Jose Theodore, and so forth. And Connor Hellebuyck joins that list. And take a look at his stats from this season. Connor Hellebuyck was 47-12-3 with a 2.00 goals against average and a .925 save percentage with 8 shutouts in 63 games played this season. He started 62 of those games. And in the playoffs, he was 6-7 with a 3.08 goals against average and a .866 save percentage with 2 shutouts in 13 games played. He started all 13 of those games. He mostly struggled on the road in these Stanley Cup playoffs. That was a big factor there. And the Jets getting eliminated by Dallas Stars in 5-6 games in the second round of these Stanley Cup playoffs. And of course, this is another year where the President's Trophy winner does not win the Stanley Cup. Of course, the last team to win the President's Trophy and win the Stanley Cup was my Chicago Blackhawks in the 2012-13 season. They won the Stanley Cup in 2013. Also took on the President's Trophy in 2013 as well. And Connor Hellebuyck, he led all goalies in wins with 47, goals against average with 2.00, and shutouts with 8. He was second in save percentage with a .925 save percentage behind Anthony Stolarz of the Toronto Maple Leafs, who had a .926 save percentage, and he allowed 2 or fewer goals 40 times and 1 or fewer 27 times this season. And this career milestone season also included him reaching 300 wins, 500 games played, and getting 40 shutouts, which of course happened in January of 2025. And Winnipeg is actually tied for third with the Dallas Stars for goals for per game with 3.35, and is last in goals against with 2.32. So really good stats for the Winnipeg Jets, and obviously I wish that they could have went on to the conference finals and could face the Oilers, Jets, Oilers, Canadian Western Conference Final right there. But obviously it didn't happen because they got eliminated by the Dallas Stars. Winning the President's Trophy with a 56-22-4 record, 116 points, but again, the President's Trophy team could not get it done, and they are eliminated. And the President's Trophy curse still continues. But now let's get to the keys to the game for Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final. So Game 5 is going to be in Edmonton on Saturday, 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time. And here are my keys to the game for the Florida Panthers. We need to see more of Matthew Tkachuk. So he came up big despite the Panthers losing in that Game 4 on Thursday. Came up big with 2 power play goals. This is actually the first 2 goals that he scored in this series. He has never had a goal in this series up until this point. And I believe he has 6-7 goals in the playoffs in total right now. And I don't think he's never scored. He's never scored in this series up until this point. So we need to see more of Matthew Tkachuk heading into Game 5. We need to see him come up big for the Florida Panthers. Obviously a pivotal Game 5 for both teams. So we need to see more from him in Game 5. And another thing, contain McDavid and Draisaitl. Of course, Leon Draisaitl coming up big in overtime again for the Edmonton Oilers. And I don't know, Connor McDavid didn't get an assist on that just like he did in Game 1 when Leon Draisaitl won in overtime. But it's always good to contain McDavid and Draisaitl. They were held off the score sheet in Game 3, not held off the score sheet in Game 4. Something that the Panthers are going to have to change heading into Game 5. And another thing, we need to see a bounce back performance from Sergei Bobrovsky. So Sergei Bobrovsky obviously had a bad, well, I wouldn't say a bad game. I mean, it's not nice when you blow a 3-0 lead, but I'm pretty sure even he'll tell you there was some goals that he probably would have wanted bad. Didn't like the way that the Panthers playing. Is looking to have a bounce back performance heading into Game 5. for the Oilers. Start the period strong. That first period was awful. That first period was just not it. But after that first period, we saw a whole differently Oilers team in the second and third period, and of course in overtime. But that first period was just awful. They struggled right out of the gate in that first period. We need to see a stronger start into Game 5. You're at home in front of your home fans for Game 5, and the fans will want to see a strong start in that first period. Build momentum early. Avoid slow starts like in Game 4 of the first period. We need to see a solid opening frame for the Edmonton Oilers in that first period against this high-power offense from the Florida Panthers. And number 2, net front presence. Keep pushing traffic towards Sergei Bobrovsky. Of course, they did that in Game 4, getting a lot of greasy, sick play-looking goals. But that will be key to breaking through his goaltending type walls. And that will also be key to coming out with the win in Game 5. And another thing, home ice advantage. Like I said before, you're at home at Rogers Place playing in front of your home fans in a pivotal Game 5. So it's always good to have the home crowd behind you. And that's also going to be key for the Oilers to come out with the win in Game 5. And of course, take a look at the betting odds presented by ESPN Bet Sportsbook. Both teams are at minus 120 on the money line. Oilers are slightly the favorites to win. At least that's what I'm thinking. The Oilers are slightly the favorites to win Game 5. We'll just have to see how that goes. Hopefully they will win Game 5 and be one win away from winning the Stanley Cup. This will be a toss-up. Both teams are looking to win this Game 5, heading into Game 6 on Tuesday. But hopefully it's the Oilers that come out with the win. We'll just have to see how everything goes. Before we sign off with the Hockey Talk TG podcast, there are rumors about NHL teams trying to be a new franchise in Atlanta. Let me just say this. The NHL team has been in Atlanta 2 times. And both of those 2 times did not work well, as they have went up to Canada. They have went up to Canada 2 times. You got the Atlanta Flames, who are now the Calgary Flames. And then you had the Atlanta Thrashers, who are now the Winnipeg Jets, before the original Winnipeg Jets moved to Arizona and became the Coyotes. And then you had the Atlanta Thrashers going back up to Winnipeg and calling themselves the Winnipeg Jets. So 2 times the NHL team has been in Atlanta, and 2 times it has not worked out well. So let me just address these rumors. I don't think an NHL team should be in Atlanta just because of that reason. Obviously, I don't know how the third time would be. Again, 32 teams is enough. I said this before, I'll say it again. 32 teams is enough. We don't need another NHL team overall, and we especially do not need one in Atlanta, because that has not worked that well. So just got that out of the way. If there was going to be another NHL team somewhere, I'd probably say put in Milwaukee. That will probably be another team, another place where I would love to see an NHL team. But other than that, I don't think it should really be any other NHL team. Again, 32 teams is enough. But if you were trying to put in a 33rd NHL team, I would say have a franchise in Milwaukee. I've been in Milwaukee before. It's a great city, and I'm pretty sure the fans down there will love their hockey. They already have a AHL team, the Milwaukee Admirals, who are, of course, the affiliates of the Nashville Predators. But I would love to see an NHL team in Milwaukee. So, yeah. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in as always. Just a reminder, after every game of the Stanley Cup Final, we will be here live at 11:30 every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. 11:30 a.m. Central Time, just to not get the time zones mixed up. So we'll be live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11:30 a.m. Central Time. after every game of the Stanley Cup Final. So make sure that you literally smash that big red subscribe button. If you like watching the podcast on YouTube, and if you're listening on audio platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, make sure to hit that follow button and also hit that notification bell, because, again, we're going to be live at 11:30 a.m. Central Time after every game of the Stanley Cup Final, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for post-game analysis. And this is the podcast where you want to be at. So make sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube, hit that follow button on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. Hit that notification bell so you can get notified every time the Hockey Talk with TG podcast drops. Well, hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Hopefully you have a great weekend. God first, as always. Be blessed. Enjoy Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final. Tomorrow, this Saturday, it's going to be a pivotal Game 5 for both of these teams. Both teams looking to come out with the win and take a 3-2 series lead, heading into Sunrise, Florida for Game 6 on Tuesday. And I'll see you guys on Monday for another episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. Take care.